Among the most deadly notations on credit reports are the notations of debts being charged off, the notation of a judgment, the notation of a lien. Not many people really understand the best way to deal with these items, so let's take a look. It's now time to talk about those terrible notations on credit reports of a debt being charged off, a debt being a judgment, or a debt being a lien. Let's dive right into the charge-off, which is probably the least well understood of these terms. A debt is usually charged off after it's gone 180 days without any payments. A charge-off is basically an accounting move by the person that holds the debt, in which, in effect, they're stating, I'm giving up on this debt. I see no realistic hope of getting paid. I'm giving up and declaring it a loss for my purposes for accounting and for tax purposes. Now, the Internal Revenue Service considers this to then become income to you, but that doesn't mean you don't still owe the money. I know that doesn't make sense, but except in cases of really large amounts, the Internal Revenue Service doesn't have a policy of enforcing that provision that it can treat that debt that's been charged off as income to you. And the debt is still yours to pay, although the holder of the debt has charged it off. So it's very deadly on a credit report, and you want to negotiate this debt carefully. Be careful when you call up the debt collector and attempt to negotiate it about settling for less than the full amount. They will frequently do that, and if it's a large amount, you may very well have to. But when a debt is settled for less than the full amount, unless you negotiate otherwise, that will be noted on the credit bureau's report that was settled for less than the full amount. And although that will help you, it will still have some negative consequences. Your goal with a charge-off, as with any other debt, is to try to get it completely purged from the credit report as if it never existed at all, not as a lingering problem that you once had. Avoid the term settled, because settled implies that it was settled for less than what you owed. You want a term to convey to the person looking at it that the debt has been paid as agreed, that the account has been closed, and best of all, closed at creditor's request. Now, when negotiating for settlement of a debt, or whether it's full payment, if it's a small debt, I recommend paying the full thing so that you avoid this problem, but it's big. Make it part of the negotiations that it will read closed at creditor's request so that you don't have that problem of a negative implication of having settled the debt for less than you owe. Now, moving on to judgments. A judgment is issued by a court of competent jurisdiction that says, essentially it's a legal document that says that person A owes money to corporation B or person B, and that this judgment is an enforceable document where they can bring you into court and it can be examined as to your means of paying it. And it will be recorded by the credit bureau, who will pick it up at the court. Now, if you've paid the judgment, if it goes down as a paid judgment, it's very difficult to get that expunged completely because the creditor no longer has any incentive to agree to get the judgment vacated, which is the only way to get rid of it. It doesn't hurt to ask. A little diplomacy sometimes goes a long way. But if it's an unpaid judgment, you must make vacating the judgment in exchange for payment part of your settlement. Otherwise, you're going to have to live with the entry of a judgment for 7 years. Now, a paid judgment hurts your credit score less than an unpaid judgment, but as with everything else, there's nothing better than having it completely purged from the report. Moving on to the term liens. The most common form of lien is a tax lien. We've talked in a previous chapter about how the Internal Revenue Service will cooperate in purging any record of having had a tax lien if you settle with them for the full amount, or if you settle with them in such a manner that they can withdraw the money from your bank account on a regular basis. There's another kind of lien that's very common. It's called a mechanic's lien. Mechanics lien typically is a notification that's filed in a city or town hall by a worker, maybe a plumber, a roofer, or a carpenter, that they have not been paid for services that they've rendered. And when it comes time to sell the property, this money must be paid. If you have a mechanics lien against you on your credit report and the property is getting ready to close, you will be contacted, but you can make dissolution of the mechanics lien part of the settlement. And it's very important to get it dissolved and not just to have it as satisfied, but to have it vacated. And you can insist on a document that you yourself can bring to the city or town hall and get the mechanics lien vacated, and then forward a certified copy of that to the credit bureaus that have recorded it. I hope this clears up these terms, and good luck, especially with the particularly difficult problems that come along with charge-offs, judgments, and liens.